Hey, what's up guys? Chris here, back with another tea talk. And tonight we are drinking another Fukamushicha, or deeply steamed green tea from Kagoshima Prefecture. I've made several videos about Fukamushicha and Fukamushicha from Kagoshima Prefecture in particular before, so I won't be talking a lot about the tea itself tonight because it is sort of similar to what I've been drinking. But I will say it's a blend of first flush teas from 2022. So it is considered a shincha. And the name of the tea is Satsuma Fukamushicha. And the name Satsuma is what we're going to be talking a lot about tonight. So Satsuma is actually the old name for Kagoshima Prefecture and Kagoshima City. And it was centered around Kagoshima Castle, which is in modern day Kagoshima City. And the name Satsuma comes up a lot in Japanese history, and we'll talk about 3 instances of Satsuma coming up in Japanese history tonight. The first one being the invasion of the Ryukyu Kingdom in 1609. So the Ryukyu Kingdom is what is now called Okinawa Prefecture, and it was an independent state and group of islands in the Pacific Ocean. And it is geographically closer to Taiwan and to Korea than it is Japan, but it did have ties to the Satsuma domain and to Japan as a whole throughout its history prior to 1609. And even, was friendly towards Japan. Actually, Toyotomi Hideyoshi asked the king of the Ryukyu Kingdom to supply soldiers for his war in Korea, in which the king did. He supplied about half of what Hideyoshi asked for. But by the time the Tokugawa shogunates came into power in the early 1600s, the king wasn't really that responsive towards the shogunate, and in 1609 the Shimazu clan of Satsuma Han or Satsuma domain invaded the Ryukyu Kingdom. So it took over several islands, including Okinawa Island, which was the main island and center of the kingdom, and it became a vassal state of the Satsuma domain. So it was sort of like a puppet state, but it was also a tributary state to China. So it was still, although it was under Japanese control a little bit, it was still independent and was still paying money to China and was still friendly with China. And a little bit about Ryukyu history or Okinawan history. Ryukyu and Okinawa are like now interchangeable terms, so I'll go back and forth, so please don't get confused by that. But like I said, they were friendly with China, and there were different Chinese traders that came over and taught taught martial arts to the local people, to more so the soldiers of the Ryukyu Kingdom. And so there was a real martial arts culture going on in that Ryukyu Kingdom. And when the Shimazu clan came in, they banned all martial arts. The Ryukyu soldiers couldn't, practice with their weapons. There was no martial arts allowed. So if you are familiar with karate or have an interest in Japanese martial arts, this might be of interest, or you might have heard this before. But this is sort of how karate or tea or te, the old names for karate, sort of developed. Although, like I said, there was a martial culture on the island since before the Japanese came in. But so they banned the martial arts, and there was a fierce fight by the Ryukyuans or Okinawans against the Japanese, but ultimately they were pushed back, and Japan really took over. So they started practicing martial arts at night and in secret. And this sort of led to what would become karate. So one of the leading figures in karate history is Gichin Funakoshi. He's the founder of Shotokan Karate, although he said he didn't have a style of karate, but his teachings ultimately became Shotokan. He would go to his teacher's house at night and practice practice karate in his garden. So these secret practices that started in the 1600s carried over into the 1800s, and these garden dojos began to develop, and there were no real like dojo. It was, you know, that's something of the modern day, but back in the day you would just go to your master's house and practice in his backyard. But yeah, so that's a little history, a little karate history tied into this first historical point. The second historical point is the Satsuma Choshu Alliance. So the Choshu clan were located in what is now Yamaguchi Prefecture. So that is the tail end of Honshu, the main island of Japan. It's very west, or what is referred to as west or southern, and it's the last tip of that main island before Kyushu, where Fukuoka and where Kagoshima are located. So in 1866, the Satsuma clan and the Choshu clan formed an alliance to restore imperial rule and fight against the shogun, or the shogunate government that was in power at the time. So when I did my black tea video a while back, I talked a little bit about the Meiji Restoration, and this Choshu and Satsuma alliance was the beginning, or the seed that sort of led to the Meiji Restoration. So, you know, they started rebelling against the shogunate. Several battles happened, or little rebellions, skirmishes, and that eventually led to the Meiji Emperor being restored to power in 1868. And so I'll brew the tea while I talk. Sorry, getting a little confused here, but and then so that happens. The Meiji Emperor is restored, and 9 years later, in 1877, the Satsuma Rebellion happens. So Saigo Takamori was a leader of the Satsuma clan, or Satsuma domain, during that Satsuma Choshu Alliance period. And then when the Meiji Emperor was restored, he became a government leader within that empire, the Meiji Empire. But, you know, people from Satsuma and Takamori himself saw like the rapid industrialization and the internationalization of Japan. They saw it as sort of Japan was losing its traditional values and sort of what they fought for. There was a phrase, "expel the barbarian," that they used during the Meiji, the fight to restore the emperor. And part of the reason for their rebellion was sort of what I talked about in that black tea video. The Americans came in, and the shogunate sort of looked weak, and the Americans and other Western powers began issuing demands for Japan, and the shogunate was weak, and it made them look weak to the world. But after the Meiji emperor was restored, everyone was allowed in. So Americans, Westerners, everything. They came in. They started building railroads. They did all these things, and they started wearing Western clothes. So that expelled the barbarian sort of spirit for the rebellion. They saw as was being lost. And actually, Saigo Takamori is the inspiration for Katsumoto in the movie The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. So there's a lot of parallels in that movie with history, or what was going on at the time of the Satsuma Rebellion. Although it's a movie and there's a lot of historical inaccuracies, of course, but so there was some dissent within the Satsuma domain, and the Meiji Emperor sent sort of government envoys to sort of curtail that dissent, but they weren't successful. And ultimately, Saigo Takamori and his soldiers took over Kumamoto Castle. So Kumamoto is a neighboring prefecture to Kagoshima, or to Satsuma, and Kumamoto Castle was a main, I guess, military base, you could say, for that area. So they took that over, and that was sort of the start of this actual rebellion against the Meiji government. And several battles took place over the next couple of years, and then, or not, actually, in the next couple months, actually, not years, but the last battle was the Battle of Shiroyama in Kagoshima, and the forces of Saigo Takamori were on the losing end. They were being pushed back into their own land, into Kagoshima Prefecture. And this last battle, they were up against the forces of the Empire, and that was armed with Western weapons, modern Western weapons, and they were really losing. But legend has it that Saigo Takamori committed seppuku, so he opened up his belly, which was with his sword, which is a traditional way of samurai suicide, and then he had a kaishakuin, so his second in command cut off his head as after he was done opening up his belly. That's a legend, because there's also evidence that he shot himself in the head, and that someone cut off his head afterwards to make it look like he committed seppuku and he died honorably. But that's up for debate. But yeah, so that movie, The Last Samurai, you can see they're building the railroad. There's a scene with Tom Cruise and Watanabe Ken, who played Katsumoto, and he talks about the railroad being built and sort of the rapid changes going on in Japan. But yeah, so I'm gonna just drink this tea. Let's taste it. There's a bit of a tartness, I would say. Compared to it is brothy, like the other Fukamushicha I've had, and I use that term a lot on here. But this one in particular, there's a bit of tartness, which was unexpected. But yeah, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed my little history lesson. I'm gonna continue drinking this tea, and you have a good night. Bye.